215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present. Our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m. with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie.
Call in for a free quote. Call this number, 215-885-2444. That number is 215-885-2444. 215-885-2444. All Insurance Incorporated.
Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present. Our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m. with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie. Time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m. with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie.
Welcome back to Time for an Awakening. And sometimes this computer acts up just a little bit. Everything will be all right. Tonight, we're scheduled to have a special guest join us straight from the continent, Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Obadeli Kambon, is scheduled to join us. In fact, he is with us on the line. If I can get him in here. Professor Kambon, can you hear me?
Yes, fading in and out, so I can't hear you very clearly.
I think we're having this loud hum. We're having a loud hum in the background.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but it's a loud hum.
Say it one more time, please.
We have a loud hum. That's probably why you can't hear me. It's a loud hum. I think it's from your end.
Let me try to call you right back.
All right.
Because I can't make out what you're saying. I'll call you right back.
All right. Yeah, sometimes we have that little snafu there when we try to reach our guests that are calling in internationally. But we'll try to hook up with Professor Kambon. He'll try to call us back maybe on another line. Hopefully we can get a better connection and continue the conversation with him. I'm glad to have joining us this evening a grassroots activist in the city of Philadelphia, and he sits on a lot of boards, and he also sits on the board at the African American Museum in Philadelphia. Brother Richard White is with us this evening to join us in conversation. Brother Richard, how are you, sir? Brother Richard. Can you hear me, Brother Richard? Brother Richard, are you there? Boy, I guess everything is all right here. It looks good from my end, but we'll continue the conversation until our guest reaches back out to us. A couple of things I want to go into before I open up the line. I might take a couple of calls before our guest comes back. It's always some things that bug you during the course of the week that kind of gets under your skin. Let me say this to our listening audience. I have a business where I deal with the public. Been doing it now for over 20 years. 25 years to be exact. Barbershop. Cutting hair. Let me reach back to our guest and see if we can get him now.
Yeah.
Professor Kambon, can you hear me?
Okay.
Kambon,
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great now. It's
Okay,
just
great.
it's a little echo. You might have something up in the background, a volume, something, because I hear myself. I don't hear myself now, but I did a second ago.
Okay, I have my headphones in. I'm actually calling you from my phone now instead of my laptop.
Great. I don't get the feedback. That sounds great. We're hitting
Okay,
on
good.
we're hitting on all cylinders now. I want to thank you for being
Good.
with us this evening. Professor Kambon, you're joined on Time for Awakening with Brother Richard White. He's a grassroots activist in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and also sits on the board of African American Museum in Philadelphia. Brother Richard, are you with us?
Brother Ellie, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I am. And welcome, Professor Kambon.
Professor Kambon, you know, we'll just get right into the conversation this evening. I shared with Brother Richard your article in the blackstarnews.com about our people divesting in the United States, and I thought it was an interesting article, timely conversation, and plus some of the other things that we're going to spin off into our conversation dealing with that topic. But first, I want to kind of set the tone before I get into the article. Talk a little bit about yourself, Professor Kambon. You've been teaching there at the University of Ghana for a number of years, but you taught here. Give us a little brief bio of yourself and your work.
Okay. Well, I went to undergrad at Morehouse College in Atlanta, where I did so-called African American Studies. Then I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison and did 2 master's degrees there, one in African languages and literature, and another one in linguistics. Then I taught in Chicago for a few years at Northeastern Illinois University at the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies, also at Malcolm X College, Chicago State University, and then several other secondary schools, all the way down to preschool, actually, elementary, every level, middle school. And I decided to come to Ghana to do my PhD, which I completed in 2012 in linguistics again. And I've been actually on faculty at the University of Ghana since 2014. When I finished in 2012, I won the Vice Chancellor's Award for Best PhD Thesis that year, and it's actually the first time an African from the diaspora has gotten that award. And then this year, I won the award for the Best Publication in the Humanities from the Provost of the College of Humanities, and that's also the first time an African from the diaspora has won that award as well. So I'm in African Studies in the Language, Literature, and Drama section. And yeah, that's just briefly, a little bit of background.
How long have you been at the University of Ghana?
Since 2014 as faculty, but I started the PhD program in 2009, so 09 to 2012 for the PhD program, and then faculty from 2014 to present.
Okay, so you've been living in the continent basically that for that period of time, maybe longer.
Since 2008.
Okay.
I repatriated 2008.
Okay. Dr. Kambon, you penned an interesting article that was in the Black Star News online, Milton Alamati's paper up there in New York. He's been a guest on our program several times. And I just want to read the first paragraph to kind of start the conversation off. You kind of do some reflections on yourself, and then you make a statement, and then I'll read it to the listening audience, and you can take it from there. It says, growing up in the 1980s, I was a part of a family that actively participated in the movement to divest from companies that were invested in South Africa's white apartheid government. There were certain gas stations that we would never go to. There were certain brands that we would not buy. Today, there's the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, as African people are being shot down in the streets daily. Donald Trump has just been elected and has appointed members of the alt-right movement and other white supremacists and white nationalists to key positions in his cabinet. Now, we are now in a time where African people throughout the world would be better served by divesting from the United States. In one way, which this could be done, is via knowledge production and associated cottage industries. Now, I want to stop there because I want you to kind of tell us how this can be done. But just reflect on that statement that I said before you open up into ways of our people divesting.
Right. So a little bit of background. That was the abstract for a conference I actually presented at last week. And the conference is African Studies Association. Now, for those who may not be aware, African Studies Association was founded in the 50s. I want to say 58, if I'm correct about that. And when they have this conference, ironically, it's in the United States. So it's supposed to be African Studies, but it's, they're in the United States. And, there's a bit of a contradiction in there. Okay, it's supposed to be African Studies, but the money isn't where the mouth is. We're talking about Africa, but then you find that Africa sort of becomes just a prop to enrich the United States. So I went into, several different statistics about how much, almost $1 trillion that this whole, conference thing, brings about just in the United States alone. Then the publishing industry, multi-billions and so forth and so on. But basically, when we talk about knowledge production, we're saying, okay, let's have an academic conference, that there's so much that goes into it, from, equipment rentals to venue rentals to, having accommodation to per diem, all these types of things. So basically, again, it's pretty straightforward that when we're talking about knowledge production and all these associated cottage industries, it's really enriching America. So my call was specifically to those who are part of this so-called African Studies Association to, actually look at this and see about, okay, if we're talking about Africa and how to solve Africa's problems and so forth and so on, one way to do that is just by saying, all right, let's take our knowledge production, let's take our conference to Africa, and then those trillions, instead of going to the United States, would then come to Africa. That's just a little bit of background on that.
Dr. Kambon, the idea of us divesting, and you said that it was at that time you were addressing it to a specific group of people or a specific subject matter as far as the conferences. But if you take that and spill that over into other stratas of life or things that we do every day, in your estimation, give us some practical solutions where this could start being done. There are movements going on here. The Let's Buy Black 365.com movement, 1 million conscious and conscientious black contributors and voters. It's a lot of movements going on where our people can start divesting themselves, because it has to start in the mind first before any physical type of thing can be done. There are movements where our people can start divesting themselves from a lot of things that they're doing normally. Give us some other practical solutions, because you kind of took your divestment to a level where I would dare say a lot of people are not prepared to, because you left the country. Some of our people, and I dare say maybe the majority of our people, are not prepared to do that, whether they're not really prepared or financially prepared or just can't do it or don't want to do it. But we can all start divesting ourselves from a mental state from this society. Give us some practical ways where this can be done.
Okay, very good. Well, first off, I'll say that there are different tiers, different levels, just as, you alluded to, different levels to which, a person can divest. Now, one thing that you mentioned, Let's Buy Black 365. So one level is just to say, all right, if I have a choice between a black grocery store and a white grocery store, I'm going to the black grocery store. If I have a choice between, a black, whatever the service provider is, let me use that one instead of, going to a white one, black car dealership instead of white car dealership, so forth and so on. Now, one of the challenges is that, at that level is still operating within the container. I actually have a slide for the presentation that I gave that shows a system where you run water out of a hose, out of a pool into a black hose, and it spins around and it goes right back into the same pool. And it's actually a heating system for that water. And the challenge with that level is, all right, it's good that we're able to pull it out of the pool, but eventually it goes back into the same pool. So, you have your mortgage, you have all these things. And basically one of the points that I made is that, oftentimes when you talk about Black Lives Matter, when you talk about whatever, okay, let's say you're going to have a march. Okay. And this is a point that the late, great Dr. John Henrik Clarke made with the Million Man March. He said, all right, so you're going to do a march, but how many shoes is that million men going to be wearing? All right. And he said, okay, where are they going to sleep? So basically, even when you're trying to fight against the system, you are enriching the system even in doing it. And it comes down to the point that we have to realize, okay, we don't like our black men and women getting shot in the street. But, every single time we go to the grocery store, we are buying the bullets for the police. I hope you understand it. Okay. Every single time that we pay our mortgage or pay our taxes or do whatever, we're buying the bullets, we're buying the guns, we're buying the police cars. That money doesn't just, pop out of thin air. It's via our support of this wicked white world terror domination, this criminal government on stolen land. So even as I was speaking to that conference I was streaming in, they were in Washington, D.C. Now, there were indigenous people called the Piscataway people who that land that they're having a conference on belongs to. So they are having a conference literally on stolen land, and they're streaming to somebody whose ancestors were stolen. And I actually give a quote by United Front. It's a group out of New York, where the brother Ambassador O, he says, treated like a thief on stolen land, a descendant of stolen woman and stolen man. So when we're talking about the criminalization of African people, they are they are calling us criminals on land that they stole, and they're talking to people that they stole. So it's a major problem. So when we're talking about divesting, again, the level, one of a higher level, I would say, would be, I am taking myself out, and just in that, by saying, all right, that is thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars that I'm taking away. I'm no longer financing my enemy to that degree just by taking myself out. It's like I'm robbing a bank. So some people be like, oh, all you have to do is say, I'm leaving. And then that, you're taking money out of your enemy's mouths. So that money that would have gone to buy bullets, no, they're not doing that anymore. That's going into Africa. We're making Africa great again. And I actually put a slide on there, make Africa great again. Africa was great in the past, as our great ancestors used to say. John Jackson used to always say that, and it can be great again. So this is exactly what we're working for.
Dr. Kambon, the use of social media as a tool for our people, and especially a tool for information and liberation. When a lot of these social media networks started, some of our people were happy to get on there and use them for other means, pictures of family, gossiping, spreading silly messages. But you see more and more our people are starting to use social media platforms for the spread of information. Black Talk Radio Network has started a social media platform so black folks can spread news and other stories. Let's Buy Black 365.com as a social media network, and you see more and more. You told me about a social media network that black folks are using on the continent. Not saying that Mark Zuckerberg has a monopoly on starting social media networks. Our people have the wherewithal and technology to start these things, and they're doing it. So we see now that the use of social media is a tool also to start at least the mental stages of divesting from this country. Speak to that issue.
Okay, now when we talk about social media, we also have to disaggregate and say, all right, are we talking about white-owned, Eurasian-owned social media? Are we talking about African media?
Okay.
I really look at the rise of these white social media networks to really mitigate the possibility of the internet as a source for African people to own and control our own media. So, whereas they could be on African sites, now they're on Zuckerberg or whoever. So for myself, I actually divested from using Facebook in 2010. So I said, I'm not using that. I'm using African. So I'm on Abibi Tumikasa. And this is now 10 years old. So I founded this in 2006 when I was in the U.S. And it's Africans from throughout the world. So the membership, 6,000 members, 10,000 on our mailing list, 1,500 customers, so forth and so on. And it's exclusively for African people. It's exclusively for African people. And I want to make that a clear point. Now, to some degree, when you do something like that, it's sort of like the Negro Leagues, because, black people are so much into integrationism that, even online, they want to be part of whatever, white folks are doing, white man's ISIS colder type of syndrome. But for us, we're like, no, and, for myself, also this year, there's another platform that actually was bought by Zuckerberg again called WhatsApp. And this is really popular here in Ghana. And in time for the African New Year, this is around the end of August, coming into the beginning of September, I got off of that one too, because I'm looking at it like there was a quote by Lauryn Hill. She said, two MCs can't be in the same place at the same time. It's against the laws of physics. And you look at this like, you can't be in two places at the same time. Either you're putting your time, your energy, your resources into supporting these white social media, or you're doing it for African people. So, I made a decision that I'm not socializing with anyone on any non-African owned social media. So even if I upload a video, you better be on a Bibi to Mikasa if you want to actually discuss this thing with me. If you are on your deathbed dying and you want to send me a message on this white social media, guess what? You're not going to make it, because I'm not interacting with people on white on social media. So it's just a role that I have for myself. And again, supporting the African ones. So Let's Buy Black is out there. So when I did that talk, I actually posted it up to Let's Buy Black. It automatically has an RSS feed, so it goes straight into our BB to Mikasa. And this is an ongoing discussion that we're having. Now, our BB to Mikasa, it translates to Black Power Language. And part of the idea, it came from different places, but one part of it was Dr. Khalid Muhammad. He gave a talk at my parents' bookstore and cultural center in North Carolina. And in it, at the end of it, I was like, that's very powerful, but how come anytime we discuss African liberation, we're doing it in European or Eurasian languages? We should be able to discuss African liberation in African languages. So, that's BB2 Mikasa is also a platform where we do that. We have various African languages represented, and then all the various areas of human activity. So, just to bring it full circle, to come back to where we started, when we're talking about social media, I would also say, we need to divest, and there are different levels to it, from supporting these white folks on social media, because again, we're saying we don't like how they are killing our people, but then we're saying, all right, I'm not going to support the black social media, I'm going to go support the white social media. It's a contradiction. It's hypocrisy on multiple levels. So the degree to which we can lessen that hypocrisy.
Dr. Kambon? Dr. Kambon, we're going to take a brief break. And sometimes when we have international guests, we lose them. Or, we'll take a brief break, and when we come back, hopefully we can have him rejoin us. We're in conversation tonight with our guest, Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Obadeli Kambon, is with us. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
All Insurance Incorporated, an African-American owned and operated insurance agency and business for over 20 years, located at 231 Southeastern Road in Glenside, PA, with other offices in Germantown and West Philadelphia. Call now for commercial insurance quotes, homeowners insurance quotes, automobile insurance quotes, notary and tax services, representing over 15 major A-rated insurance companies, offering a discount on all notary services when you call in for a free quote. Call this number, 215-885-2444. That number is 215-885-2444. 215-885-2444. All Insurance Incorporated.
Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present, our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m., with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie.
Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies. Everybody is here. As many of you know, last March, when it was announced that I was no longer in the Black Muslim movement, it was pointed out that it was my intention to work among the 22 million non-Muslim Afro-Americans and to try and form some type of organization or create a situation where the young people, our young people, the students and others, could study the problems of our people for a period of time and then come up with a new analysis and give us some new ideas and some new suggestions as to how to approach a problem that too many other people had been playing around with for too long. And that we would have some kind of meeting and determine at a later date whether to form a black nationalist party or a black nationalist army. There have been many of our people across the country from all walks of life who have taken it upon themselves to try and pool their ideas and to come up with some kind of solution to the problem that confronts all of our people. And tonight we are here to try and get an understanding of what it is they've come up with.
The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You would never find, you can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled and misguided are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing and a run-down community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar out.
Welcome back to Time for an Awakening, and hopefully we have our guest back, Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Obadeli Kambon, is joining us in conversation this evening. Dr. Kambon, did we get you back?
Yes, I'm here if you can hear me.
Great. You know, sometimes it happens this way with international calls. The calls drop, and then we have to get them back, but I'm glad that we were able to kind of reconnect. You know, you were saying some things just before we broke off, but let me get Brother Richard involved in the conversation. Brother Richard.
Yes, Elliot. And once again, thank you, Professor Kambon. You know, I when I knew Elliot was going to have this program and have you on, and I did some reading about your work and what you've been engaged in Ghana, I wanted to say I thank you, not just from the perspective of divesting as a person, as an African, going back to the continent, but for the continuing development of the knowledge production in relationship to using linguistics, but bringing the development of African thinking, which is so important for this topic, and our historical continuity, because I believe so many more of people like yourself have to go back to the continent to actually do the unearthing, if not the relationship building, bringing back that Kemet, Ife, Benin, Mali, these areas of knowledge production is something that we not need for just some abstract intellectual, but for our continuous development since my office. So I want to thank you for that, and I want to make sure that hopefully the listening audience recognize that we need more people on the ground to divest by actually taking themselves back to the continent and doing that primary work, or we'll not be able to look in the future and do the kind of things we have to do as far as make the linkages, continue to build communities as we've done in the past. So I just wanted to start off with that. My question is, when you said this, was how did the African Studies Association respond to your presentation?
Dr. Kambon?
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you hear the question?
No, I did not.
Can you?
I actually didn't hear anything after you said get Brother Reggie involved, and then it cut off for a second.
Hold on a second. Let me. Richard.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear Brother? Can you hear Brother Richard, Dr. Kambon?
No, I cannot.
You know what? You know, we're gonna do it like this.
Okay.
You know what?
Continue on.
No, okay, go ahead. I'm gonna get him on and get him to connect through another line, because he's not hearing the questions, and I want him to be able to hear the questions so he can respond to them. We'll you know what? We'll continue the dialogue. Dr. Kambon, do me a favor.
Right.
Call up at 215-490-9832, and I think you'll be able to hear the comments and to hear the questions and be able to talk to some of our listening audience. Because it's a Skype line, for some reason, you're not able to hear anyone but myself.
Okay.
So if you
All right, so I'll do that.
Yes, 215-490-9832, and we can get some of the the callers involved with dialogue with you.
All right, so I'll
Thank you,
call
sir.
back on that line.
All right.
Okay.
Brother Richard.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
as you know, as I was saying, it's like really important that people like Dr. Kambon, other students who become professors and scientists actually go back to the continent. I'm kind of focused on this knowledge production piece because it's so critical to the development of our worldview as Africans in the diaspora.
Yeah, that was an interesting question, and I'd love to hear his response to it. He's going to give us a call back and reach out to us.
Okay, I'm on the line now.
Oh, okay, great. Brother Richard, ask Dr. Kambon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say what you.
Yeah, I just wanted to first, though, Dr. Kambon, to thank you for actually going back on the continent. I done said this 3 times now, but you don't know, as I look at the literature and as what Africans are doing, I just see very few Africans going back to the continent in the areas of, as yourself, linguistics or anthropology or archaeology or genetics, and it just, I see so many Europeans, even from all over the world, but particularly from America, coming and kind of taking that knowledge base. So if we don't get on the ground like you're doing and divesting yourself, and not only divesting, but then advocating how other Africans should be doing this in our diaspora, we'll never be able to continue the project of African knowledge production. But my question was, to you, as I read the article and heard you speak, how did the African Studies Association respond to your presentation, or is it too early to tell?
Well, the moderator asked me not to use the term "make Africa great again." So she was like, "Oh, that's taking Trump's phrase." And I'm like, "Okay, so Trump stole my ancestors and is standing on stolen land, but hands off of his phrase. That really didn't make too much sense to me." And you're talking to someone whose ancestors were stolen, and you're saying don't take his phrase. But again, I think it also speaks to a lack of knowledge, just in terms of our own African scholars. So this is something that, again, I mentioned John Jackson. So he would always close off his lectures by saying, we've done it once, we can do it again. We were great once, we can be great again. And, if you don't have any background just in terms of knowing real African-centered scholars, not these, folks who are out there doing whatever they're doing, then, first off, and matter of fact, we had a question from a sister out of Cameroon who was like, Africa has never been great. I don't know how great Africa has ever been, because this leader in Cameroon did such and such, and this leader did such and such. And really, it speaks to the abject ignorance. There's supposed to be an association, African Studies Association, and they don't know anything about Africa. So all they know is that, history starts from when Europeans first set their foot on the continent. So then they start their clock from there, which is, a very ahistorical, amnesiatic type of historiography. So, if you don't know anything beyond what your enemies have told you, then, it's basically like a up from slavery narrative, like we're going to start our history from there. But, again, this is why there's a quote from the late Jacob Carruthers, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, where he said, African champions must break the chain that links African ideas to European ones and listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters. Now, the way to do that is by going back to what our African ancestors said, so we can study Medu Neter and just read what our ancestors said. And again, if we want to know, something great, all right, well, let's get these Eurasian interpreters out of the way and just go straight, direct, and read the words of our ancestors. So these are some of the options that we have. But yeah, that was some of the reaction. One, don't use that phrase because it's similar to a phrase used by Donald Trump. And then two, they don't think Africa was ever great because they don't know anything. So, and really, anytime somebody opens their mouth, they're not telling you so much about the world. They're telling you about what they know or what they don't know. They're telling you about their knowledge and their ignorance, and really displayed an abject ignorance of, so many things in terms of what Africa is.
And that community is so old and trying to propagate itself and be close, and that's why I'm really thankful for your work and what you're doing. It brings that I don't remember the total poem, but it was a poem Elder gave me one time that said, "Who will restore Ife to her lost estate?" And that's what we're seems that we're engaged in. When you opened up, you said so-called African American studies. I was curious, why you say so-called?
Okay. Basically, as a matter of fact, this is a conversation that is ongoing on our BB2 Mikasa. Again, this is the African network, African media instead of, this Eurasian so-called social media. So when we say, when I said so-called African American is one, because that term is basically the enshrinement of integrationism. It's the enshrinement of double consciousness, aka schizophrenia, where your allegiance is split between are you African or are you your own enemy, which is an American. So for me, I prefer the term African anti-American. This is knowing yourself. It's also knowing your enemy, looking at America as the foremost expression of pan-Europeanism. You got some Germans in there. You got some, Anglo-Saxons. You got all these, Eurasian enemies of African people there. So one, for myself, I was born with an African name, Abadele Kambon. I've never had any type of European name. That's one. So imagine myself going to name myself after Amerigo Vespucci. This is psychotic. This is insane. But again, schizophrenia is a type of insanity. And when you look at, a split in someone's consciousness, this is where they aren't sure of, all right, am I myself or am I my enemy? And to say African American is basically legitimizing this strand of integrationism, looking for a place underneath the table to catch the crumbs that come out. And then this also comes back to the point of divestment, that, a lot of folks who are there in the U.S., are not going anywhere else. To some degree, it's okay, I don't know anything else. This is all I know. But then to another degree, once you know something else exists, it comes down to a cost-benefit analysis, where they're like, all right, America is going throughout the world raping, pillaging, and plundering. But you know what? I can get some benefits from that. I can get some crumbs that fall off the table. So I can, get smooth roads to drive on. I can get a steady supply of electricity. I can go into the grocery store and get whatever I want. So, it's kind of okay as long as, I get my cut, as long as I get my percentage of these pilfered goods, as these ill-gotten gains. So, again, in terms of divestment, part of it is also to move back towards ma'at, move back towards ethics, that, all the things that people are enjoying is off of the blood of our African ancestors, the blood of the indigenous people there, also off of the continued blood as Africa is in, as America is in the Congo, stealing coltan. We know about the blood diamonds, Sierra Leone, Liberia, all throughout the continent, they're raping it. And through our tax dollars and through everything that we do in just living day to day, we're supporting that. So I would like to get this term out, African anti-American. This is something that we should be using, African anti-American, that you should no longer be supporting America in various ways, shapes, and forms, but rather supporting Africa and be against America, which stands for hypocrisy, it stands for contradiction, it stands for genocide.
Powerful, and thank you for your response. Elliot, do you have any?
You know what? I want to grab a couple of these callers, but let me ask this first, Dr. Kambon, before I go to the next call. In fact, let me grab one here. Let's go to 704 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Scotty calling from North Carolina. Greetings, everyone.
How are you, sir?
Greetings.
I'm okay. Hey, I'm digging what you're saying, Doc. You know, that's something that I also try to tell my family members. A couple of things you brought up, like divesting from the United States, not paying taxes. Because we had a person on our network who used to work for H&R Block for like 20-something years. Now he runs his own tax firm. And the purpose of his program was to tell black people how to take advantage of the tax laws just like Donald Trump does. Just like rich, wealthy people, saying that you don't have to be a billionaire to take advantage of these tax laws. And so he was talking about, you know, just starting a small business, even if it's a online business, just to get the tax benefits. You don't even have to do it to be looking to make a profit, but just to reduce your tax liability. So I was talking to my aunt about that, who's like in her 60s or something, and so she said, well, what about how do we pay for school? How do we pay for these roads? You know, the standard typical response that we hear from the mainstream. And I said, well, these people that got the most resources don't want to pay for it, so why should we? I said, we're funding our own oppression. We're paying the police, slave catchers' salaries, and so forth and so on. So I'm with you. It's just going to take, I think, a deprogramming effort, because our people have been programmed with so much propaganda and to think of themselves as an Americans and what have you. So, and then the other thing that I talk about, I when I was in my 20s, well, when I turned 20, I had joined the United States military to get college money. But it was while I was in the military that I read Malcolm X's book, and that was the start of my real awakening. So I eventually got out, and I forbid my daughters. You know, they could have went in if they wanted to, but I gave them good reasons on why not to go into the military like I did. I told them I was ignorant, I was young, and I didn't know any better. But now I see my role in spreading white supremacy globally as a military, as a member of the U.S. military. So they started thinking about it like that, and they did not go into the military. And that's not something that I'm hearing from anybody with a mic, you know, in the mainstream media. Why do we keep sending our kids off to spread white supremacy through the United States military? And because I'm looking at white people in the United States, their death rates are below it's higher than their birth rates. You got more of them. I think 50,000 of them died this year from heroin overdoses. And we keep hearing about they will no longer be the majority in 20 to 30 years. I think it's going to be sooner than that. So in a way, I want them to keep sending troops to the Middle East, but no black people should go. Keep sending these killer white boys over there to get killed, maimed, and psychologically damaged, because they come back here killing themselves at a rate of 8 a day. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that divest from America, and please keep preaching that message. Thank you.
Thank you for your call, Brother Scotty.
Absolutely.
Let's grab another one here. 267 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Timothy, how are you, Elliot?
How are you, sir?
Very good, very good. I would like the professor to know that you and I had a conversation a few hours ago about divesting. And I like your caller here, the professor, because he's like me. I went to HBCU, Lincoln University. He went to Morehouse. And our sister school was Spelman, and Morehouse's sister school was Bennett. But my point is that in those days, the Lincoln taught me a lot at the HBCU, because there, very early, I became more and more conscious of my blackness. I went to school with Malcolm X's daughter. I went to school with Dick Gregory's daughter. I went to school with Bill Noble's son. And Bill Noble would come there and show us on Malcolm. Dick Gregory would come anytime he wanted to, because we invited him anytime he wanted to come and talk about his bohemian diet. They was pushing in the 80s. From that situation, after coming out of Lincoln University, I came back to the black neighborhood that I grew up in. Both my mother and father were black. At that point, when you and I talked earlier about my barber was black. My neighborhood was black. The stores that I went to up and down South Street were black. My woman is black. And in saying that, me wanting to invest in my own community with all this black knowledge and black thought that I learned from black people in and out of the community, in and out of jail, all around the world, because I went with people in Lincoln University all around the world. As you know, Kwame Nkrumah and Sikwe, Kwame Nkrumah went to Lincoln University, and they themselves went back to their community and built black. But my point was, is what I learned from Lincoln University is bringing back what you know to your black community. I ran for office twice, 3 times in the black community. My whole idea was in Congress for running in this office in South Philadelphia, which expanded certain parts of North Philly and West Philly was because the former congressman had left and went to Italy. He was white. And he was a congressman over a 68% black district. So my thing was is that I want to jump up and I want to represent my community, which is black. That was the whole idea. Now, here it goes. Black people don't support each other like they supposed to. Unfortunately, a white person became the congressman of a black community. Okay, I'm not going to stop there. I said I'm going to go from Congress to state rep. So I ran for state rep twice. And I was fortunate enough to come across a very wise man, unfortunately, who's deceased. And I rented his campaign office. The whole idea for me renting his office, he was black. If I would have ran the seat, okay, it would have been a black office. The study group that I meet with on the weekends was black, okay? And I was going to be the black politician who represented the black community and a black heaven. I wanted black schools, black medical centers, and everything, black recreation centers. And with that, I believe that's our heaven on earth. So, but you got to watch out for it because this black community I invested in, I bought 2 homes, and buying those 2 homes, the people who put my heater in was black. My plumber's black. I helped paint my house with another painter who was black. But the other thing, my brother, I want you to know this: the inner black community that I'm at, which is so rich, and everything that it has close to Center City, close to everything else, good for transportation. Guess what? It's becoming whiter and whiter every day. I wish everybody saw it black in its black community and kept it black and kept it up. Because it's a beautiful community. It's so nice that everybody, non-black, wants to come in it. So how you deal with trying to keep your community black, doing black things, and keeping it black when you got to fight black people who don't want to be black and keep up your thought process of being black and being proud of being black? I'd like to have your response on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was good for us to have everything black, black, black. I think the other part, and, you know, I gave, again, an analogy looking at a swimming pool, that, you know, what we're talking about to some degree is, all right, let's, you know, pull water out of the pool, then run it right back in the pool. But at some point in time, we have to talk about draining the pool, and actually use the cover of the New Yorker that shows Donald Trump at that time doing a belly flop into a pool. I'm like, what we're talking about at this stage in terms of divesting isn't just, you know, let's, you know, support black that's here in the U.S. and support blacks here, because it's still in the same white pool. At some point in time, we have to talk about draining this pool. And once you drain it, you know, where is it going? It needs to be going to Africa. It needs to be making Africa great again. There's a quote from Malcolm X where he says, "Until Africa is a world power, no African anywhere in the world will be respected." And this is exactly what we see. So we see African people getting shot down in the U.S., in Brazil, in the U.K., burned alive in Germany, beaten and killed in India, all over the world, because Africa is not a world power. Now, you don't do that to people who have nuclear weapons, you understand? So once you're able to actually have, you know, some backup, then you'll say, okay, you know, we need to back up off of this guy, you know, when the police are pulling somebody over. This is something my father often says. He says, you know, if they pull over a so-called Jew, you know, they see the state of Israel behind him. They pull over a so-called Italian, whatever, they see the mafia behind him. But they pull over a brother, they're like, oh, you don't have any backup. So we could do whatever we want to you, and, you know, you can't do anything. So, again, I think that, there's different levels, and I think that that's a good level. It's definitely better than saying, let me get a white painter and a white whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at some point in time, when you are doing all these things within this context, you have to say, we have to drain this pool. We have to suck this thing dry and prevent, us from just saying, all right, let's just shift the dollar from the right hand to the left hand, and both of those hands are being used to buy guns to shoot African people. So we have to me, take it to another level. Divestment is on different levels. And, there's one thing that we do. A matter of fact, next year, we're taking a group to Ghana, and the goal is for people to repatriate, to invest in this Sankofa journey. So you can look that up, sankofajourney.com, SANKOFAJOURNEY, sankofajourney.com. And what that is, we're actually doing an orientation for people to get familiarized with Africa, see what it's like, see how they can invest, talk to other Africans who have done that, other Africans who are repatriated, who've learned the language and so forth and so on. And all of these things are, things that you could do. So what I would actually like for everyone who's on the call to do, go to that website and look at that as the first step of divesting, not just shifting money from right to left, and it's still staying in a white pool. Drain the white pool and fill the black pool.
Brother Tim, I want to thank you for your call.
Very good, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to 602 area code. 602. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, brothers. This brother Marcus calling from Memphis.
How are you, Marcus?
I'm doing great, and it's great to hear what the doctor's saying. The doctor hit the nail right on the head. He said because he's talking Garveyism. Say back to Africa. The Africans in America, we have the capital, we have the technical ability to help develop Africa. Africa has the natural resources and the labor, and we should marry the two, And I like what the doctor said. He said, Garvey had a saying. He said, Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. So the Africans who don't want to leave America, that's no problem. You could be our eyes here in America, and we be your eyes in Africa, and we trade. See, we develop trade with each other because we know a lot of our people don't want to leave, but we still can work together and develop trade with each other. And the doctor, you are so correct. I am with you 1,000%. And if we take this avenue, we'll move ahead in light years. I thank you, and I'll hang up and listen.
Marcus, as always, thank you for your call, man.
You're welcome, brothers.
Dr. Kambon, go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to share, on the same ideas that a lot of it comes down to this issue of identity. So, let's backtrack to the term African American. There's a proverb that says when you inherit a name, you must adopt its affairs. So once you accept, okay, well, I'm an African American, the way English works is that means that you're a type of American, right? So now, once you accept that, now you will have to say, well, what should an American be doing? According to Dr. John Henry Clark, he says when you accept a name that you are not, you will become what you are not. And there's a very good article by Brother Kwesi Akwamu where he deals with the same issue, and I want to quote it briefly. He says, when Jesse Jackson publicly announced in the 1980s that black people in America were African American, he puts it in quotes, he contributed to the subverting of a struggle in search of a path out of America's shadow. He was not the first to use such a description. Jackson ushered forth its popular usage, affirming a neo-colonial loyalty to the United States. Of course, the name struggle continues. African American holds ascendancy, though not necessarily because it is best. It reflects in the final analysis the ideological strain integration that has the greatest support from white America. So again, he says, no name exists in a vacuum. The name that Africans in America collectively embrace will certainly express our aspirations, whether wittingly or not. So those who are down with the integrationism, you're not going to get them out of America. They're loving it. They're loving, going to McDonald's and Pizza Hut and all this crap that they're doing. They're loving liking stuff on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But for those who are more sensible and are interested in the survival of African people, then, we'll say, all right, let's take it to another level. Let's buy black 365. All right, let's take it to another level. Let's repatriate. Let's come to Africa. Let's make Africa great again. So again, just like the last caller said, not everyone's going to come. Cool. So let's have, a plan for them. Let's have them interface with Let's Buy Black 365. For those who are planning on coming, then I would say interface with Abibi Tumikasa. Again, that's Black Power Language. So it's a site that has a section on repatriation, it has sections on language learning. We have a sister who teaches a course in Kiswahili. I teach a course in Chi, which is the main language of Ghana, Yoruba, one of the main languages of Nigeria, and Wolof, one of the main languages of Senegal and Gambia. So, it's beyond just the rhetoric, rah, 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 let's say. No, these are the steps. These are concrete things that you should be doing if you are interested in divesting. Learn the language. You know what I'm saying? We have a course from Chimwezu, the great author, coming up in a couple months. So all of these things are designed for Africans to say, well, I'm not sure how to do it. When I think of Africa, it's a fog, it's a mist, I don't know what to do. All right, well, this is how to do it. Now, to do that, that means that you're going to have to get your behind up off of Facebook for a second and liking ridiculous, whatever, and say, let me come to an African think tank, a non-integrationist think tank. We don't allow anything but Africans on this think tank, and they're going to have to deal with that. And now once you do that, now you can start learning about this is how to do it, this is how to repatriate, this is how to divest, this is how other people who've already divested have done it. We have another brother who has our health forum who just repatriated to Tanzania. So, there was a brother who was like, well, I don't think repatriation is a panacea. I don't think that's, the be-all, end-all and everything. And I was like, okay, cool. But by the same token, I don't think that financing our enemies is the be-all and end-all. So if this ain't everything, then that certainly ain't everything. So, let's try to put our intelligence and our resources in paths that we think are more beneficial. It may not be the end solution of everything in the world, but you definitely can't tell me that buying the bullets for the police officer is the end solution, just so that you can live your comfortable life sitting in air conditioning, blah, blah, blah.
Dr. Kambon, let me throw something else in here, because I know you have a perspective that a lot of people don't have, being that you taught here. Your early life was here, and you're teaching there. One of the main stumbling blocks to me, and this is me personally, that I think our people have is disassociating themselves from European holidays. And I know that you have that same experience with Africans here in the diaspora and Africans on the continent, especially around this time of year. Now, I know that probably in November, I don't think they get into the Thanksgiving like they do here, because that's an American holiday. They might, I don't know. But I know that they bend over backwards and break their neck around this time of year, buying trees and gifts and everything else, eating holiday hams and everything that goes with it. What it's going to take to break the stranglehold, the mental crutch, I don't know how you want to term it, of these European holidays. And it's kind of funny. I was reading an article, and I had read it before in the Narrative Life of Frederick Douglass, but I was reading an article in The Final Call, and it harkened back to what Frederick Douglass had to say about the holiday of Christmas. Now, you got to realize that during the time that Frederick Douglass was a young man on that plantation in Maryland, that a lot of these things were being introduced to our people, and it was introduced before that. But we were in the infancy stage of even celebrating a lot of these European holidays. And what he wrote in reference to Christmas, he detested Christmas in particular and European holidays in general. He detested Christianity. And he had reasons. He had good reasons. But what is it going to take for our people to break these mental strangleholds that these European holidays have over them, in your opinion?
Very good. Well, let me tell you this. Yesterday, they sent out on our email listserv for the university from the vice chancellor. This is, the top guy on the University of Ghana campus. That for the vice chancellor's Christmas package, administrative heads get 1 kilogram of beef, 2 kilograms of tilapia. Senior members get 2 chickens, 5 kilograms of rice. I should tell you that that's white rice. Rice is also indigenous to Africa, but continental Africans generally do not like indigenous African rice. They like the imported white rice of the Oriza sativa type. That's the one that comes out of Asia that's also processed in America. But just saying all that to say, here you are at a so-called institution of higher learning that's supposed to be, secular, but the top guy on campus is giving out Christmas packages of this and that, and much of it is definitely not indigenous to Africa. So they're exporting their money to get this white rice and then give it to people as a Christmas package. Now, you mentioned briefly Thanksgiving. I'll give you another paraphrase from Marcus Garvey. He says, Africa for the Africans. He's not saying that everybody should repatriate, because those who are no good there also be no good here in Africa. Now, I say that there are some who have come repatriated to Africa and are celebrating Thanksgiving. And they do that every year. They call it giving thanks and pretend like they're doing something different, but they still have the turkey and all the other crap that they do. So for me, I've never celebrated Thanksgiving, any of these Eurasian holidays a day in my life. I come from a family who had sense. Now, imagine me never celebrating any of these Eurasian holidays, or, some people prefer holidays, and coming all the way to Africa. How insane would that be? I hope you're following along.
Yes.
So all of these things have made headway here in Africa. So they're doing the Thanksgiving here. They're definitely doing so-called, Christmas and all these other things. The U.S. Embassy is here. They're trying to promote the 4th of July and all this other stuff.
I mean, are you kidding?
Yeah.
You're kidding?
I'm very, very serious.
Okay.
And the so-called African American Association of Ghana is like, yeah, let's have this barbecue for the 4th of July. And, to come to the point of your question, you were saying, what would it take? Right now, we don't have any education system in Africa that I'm aware of. There's miseducation, diseducation, and anti-education. So miseducation is clear. Diseducation is making sure that you don't know anything about it. Anti-education is your own reaction when somebody tries to finally give you some information that you built your whole castle on the sand. You built everything based on lies. So now, you're kind of committed to those lies. So, yeah, I think that it would take some degree from a young age of African education. Now, I mentioned before we have a homeschool collective, and you can go to this site, abibifahondie.org, ABIBIFAHODIE, abibifahondie.org. And what this is the website of our homeschool collective. And basically the idea is, one, to teach all these concepts that we're talking about right now in English, to teach them in African languages. So it's one thing to say, oh, your ancestors were great, blah, blah, blah. Now go work with some white folks, but have some self-esteem as you do it. Okay, now you do that. Now this black person is going to be more efficient in helping their enemies destroy the world. What we're trying to do is, a different direction and teach them about all this, wholesome African information young. So that way they're not getting into, the Christmas, Christian sanity. They're not getting into Islam, all this other, insanity that drains our people. So I think that will be a major step in the right direction, just in terms of making sure there's actually an education instead of an education system that exists now.
Let's go to 646 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Jay Hotep, how y'all good brothers doing?
How are you, Jay?
I'm really enjoying the show. I'd like to first give a shout out to the beautiful Sister Sarah. Hopefully she's listening. Basically, my question to your guest is, how can you convince the American black here to take some kind of ownership in what goes on over in Africa so that we could start trying to build something over there for our people who are over here getting slaughtered?
If you could repeat that very quickly, there's a little bit of an echo, so it made it a little bit difficult to understand.
Yeah,
I think I got the general gist.
You're not on a you're on the phone.
No. I was on the speaker. I just
okay.
My question basically to you is, brother, is how can we over here connect with brothers over there to try to get to the point to start building fellowship and institutions to deal with the oppression and the slaughter that we as Africans are facing here? Because it seems like you have so many people that are, as Africans, that are totally scared to death now that this Neanderthal knuckle dragger Donald Trump is going to become the new overseer. Even though we had an overseer on the level of Puff the Magic Negro Obama that didn't do nothing for African people here or abroad. So how can we join forces to do something?
Right. Okay, so I've given two already. One was Bibi Tumikasa. We have continental Africans on there, diaspora Africans on there. And these are African people who are already like, we're not down with integrationism because they're on the All African website. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. They're saying, so to me, in terms of people who you could connect with on the internet, this is top of the top. These are your non-integrationists. They're down for African liberation. So I would say look at that site, Bibi Tumikasa, and start connecting with the real life African people who are now continental Africans and foreign Africans. We have those from the Caribbean, the continent, UK, all over the world. That's one. The other part that I mentioned was actually coming to Africa. So I'm in sankofajourney.com, and this is a way where you can actually literally come here, make connections with real life Africans on the ground, and use that to build. So whether you're interested in dealing with businesses, whether you're dealing with buying land, whether you're interested in building here, and just in terms of having continental Africans be more aware of what's going on with Africans here, we recently I gave two different talks on Black Lives Matter to put it in context, because one thing you find continental Africans are told a lot of boogeyman stories about Africans, specifically in the U.S., that everybody there is a drug dealer. And, they can get it just by looking at the music video. Everybody's a drug dealer, a gang member, blah, blah, blah. And then Africans there get a boogeyman story for continental Africans that, everybody is a warlord, everybody got AIDS, or they, whatever, flies around their eyes, blah, blah, blah. So at the end of the day, what the intended result is that continental Africans don't want to have anything to do with Africans over there. Africans over there don't want to have anything to do with Africans over here. And the one who created that whole scenario laughs all the way to the bank, and that's called the Eurasian enemy. So, I think that just actually making those connections, so I've given you two different ways to make those connections. Now it's up to you to be like, all right, am I going to keep playing on Zuckerberg's thing, support white folks while I'm talking about African liberation? Or am I going to support, an African site, exclusively African? Am I going to actually make a step to say, let me come to the continent? Let me, take the first step to divest it. And right now, it's an exciting time because previously you had just about nothing but retirees coming on their pension as basically like a cheaper Florida. But now you have a new wave of young people, my age, around my age and younger, who are repatriating. There's a brother who's an architect and a builder, deals with earth bag stuff. Another brother who deals with solar, wind, alternative energy. It's people, young brothers and sisters who are coming here with families and they're build up Africa. They're putting their most productive years into Africa as opposed to, spending their whole lives building up the duration criminal organization called America. And then when they're spent, come here to spend a little bit of pension. So, I think all of these are calls to action. I'm saying get off of Facebook, quit Facebook today, and be on a BB to Mikasa. That's my call to action. My other call to action is, come to the Sankofa journey, come to Africa. It doesn't need to be, all right, Africa is some mystical thing that I can't understand. When you come here and you're on the ground, when you're learning a language, when you're interacting with people, that's where you start to have ideas of, what? These pineapples that the sister is selling are so sweet. I think, we could do some type of import-export on this. Or I think the shea butter, we can do something like that the ideas only start to come when you're on the ground, when you're actually interacting with real-life people.
Jay,
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask him a quick question. What do you feel is a comfortable amount of money to be able to live right now in Africa? How much would someone have to have in a monthly income, let's say a retiree or someone like that, to be able to live comfortably in Africa?
All right, I'll give you a little bit of my background. So when I decided to repatriate, I said in 1 year I was going to get up $40,000 US. So I was working 18 different jobs, in Chicago, all teaching at different universities, so forth and so on. And by the end of that year, I had gotten up just a little over $30,000. And I said, regardless of that, it's not about a specific amount. I'm leaving. Because there are so many people who just get caught up in, I'm trying to get this magic number, and I won't repatriate till I get this magic number, and then they end up never repatriating because they never actually reach that number. Because there's always rent to pay, there's always food to eat, there's always, Eurasians to support, bullets to buy for police, blah, blah, blah. So that was my goal, is to start off with, around, what I actually started off with was around 30,000. In terms of a monthly basis, it depends on what country you're in. For Ghana, I would say if you can get anywhere, I would say even $1,000 a month would make you very comfortable here. And you can be on less than that and perhaps be a little bit less comfortable. But yeah, and what you'll find is it's a fraction of what you were, like when I was in Chicago, my rent alone was $1,000 a month. That's before every time I go to the grocery store. That's another $400 down the drain. That's before I'm putting gas in the car. That's before everything else. So, again, you'll find that money goes a lot further. And then also, especially if you can do something on the internet. So this is a way that you can drain that pool, because you can use the internet as, especially you're providing a service. And that's how I put myself through school. I was teaching African languages online. So people were paying me in dollars, and I'm converting into the local currency here called the Ghana cedi. And I was able to, be very comfortable on that. I was able to pay my way through school using that. I met another brother when I was in Ethiopia just last year, who was like, he has a business where he sells a type of dog. This is a brother. He sells a type of dog called a Caucasian Shepherd. And it's basically like a fulfillment type of business. But they just place the order to him, and he just presses a button, and he gets paid off of that. And he doesn't have anything to do with the dogs. He's just, the middleman. And he was like, yeah, white folk, I get all this white folks money because they love this thing called a Caucasian Shepherd just because it has the name Caucasian in it. And when you look at it, it looks like, something like a white girl, fur, like, folks. So anyway, if you can have something online, that's another way, because you're literally taking the money out from America and investing in Africa. And when you do that, some people otherwise wouldn't have been eating, now they're eating. There's a black-owned car company. They manufacture cars here in Africa. So there's also a black-owned cell phone company who do laptops called RLG. We just started children from the Homeschool Collective this past Friday to go and see this brother who's manufacturing his own cars, and the children are growing up with the idea that, of course, black people make cars. What would they be doing? You know, of course, black people make their own, you know, smartphones and laptops. What else would they be doing? So that's just the norm from the jump for them.
Jay, I want to thank you for your call, man.
Thank you very much, brother.
And before you leave, Jay, let us know.
I'm going to get James to go first.
to take Brother X from Chicago.
Yeah,
I guess
I'm going to take Brother X. I'm going to take Brother X and put him on the boat or the plane first, and then he'll let us know because, you know, he really wants to go, but for some reason, he gets a little too scared to go. But I think Brother here done gave him the motivation to get up and get out of here.
I'll be looking for that call from Chicago. Thank you, Jay, for your call.
That's right. We're trying to get him on the correct side of the ocean. Stop incorrect.
We're going to take a brief break.
And just real quick.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to spell out that website before we go to the break. That's BB to Mikasa, and y'all can check that during the break. ABIBI.
Say that again.
Say that. Yes.
ABIBI TUMIKASA. Abibi to Mikasa. And that's an app as well, so you can just go online to whatever type of phone you got and download the app, register, and you can start interacting with an exclusively African environment, exclusively black. We don't allow nobody who's not black on that site.
We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation, and you can be a part of it, too, by dialing 215-490-9832. That's 215-490-9832. Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Obadeli Kambon, is with us. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
And download the app.
All Insurance Incorporated, an African-American owned and operated insurance agency in business for over 20 years, located at 231 Southeastern Road in Glenside, PA, with other offices in Germantown and West Philadelphia. Call now for commercial insurance quotes, homeowners insurance quotes, automobile insurance quotes, notary and tax services, representing over 15 major A-rated insurance companies, offering a discount on all notary services when you call in for a free quote. Call this number, 215-885-2444. That number is 215-885-2444. 215-885-2444. All Insurance Incorporated.
Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present, our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m., with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie.
Peace. This is Professor Griff from Public Enemy. People keep saying black people need to do this and black people need to do that. Well, frankly speaking, I think it's a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of philosophy, and a whole lot of head nodding. But where is the action? I'm suggesting everyone that's within the sound of my voice, we need to get on board with this national black economic empowerment movement. Let's buy black. letsbuyblack365.com. That's letsbuyblack365.com. This is Professor Griff from Public Enemy, and I'm out. Peace.
Darkness no longer, a child is born. Mother shed tears of joy as baby kissed his lungs. But daddy's not there where he ought to be. Somewhere in Georgia, skinning and shooting craps on his knees. Another victim born out here in the hood. And based on statistics, it really ain't all good. Welfare takes the tab, and daddy can't sign, and it can't be seen. The family becomes a crime. The hunt is on, and brother, you're the prey. Serving time in jail, it just ain't the way. I'm living so hard, baby, that my hair is gray. We got to make a change. It's a brand new day. A new world order, a brand new day. It's a new change of mind for the human race. It's a new world order, a brand new day. It's a change of mind for the human race. Operation in flux, and it's on the way. We just marched 1 million plus the other day. Look, we all witnessed the sweat rolling down Miss Liberty's head. She knows the sleeping giant, she's no longer sleeping dead. Oh, what a fulfillment of prophecy. Let us teach the children, freedom's never been free. It's okay to cry, go ahead and cry. 'Cause Jesus wept, but hope and faith be kept. It's a new day. World order, a brand new day. It's a change of mind for the human race. It's a new world order, a brand new
Welcome back to Time for an Awakening. We're joining conversation tonight with Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana. Dr. Obadele Kambon is with us this evening in conversation. And we'll go right back to the phones as soon as I make sure we still have Dr. Kambon with us. Dr. Kambon, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to 609 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from? 609. 609 going once. I'll put you back on hold. Let's go to 973 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is Jersey Girl. How are you?
How are you?
Great. I'm just really, I love your music. That's what I first was. I just love the music that you play, and I just want to say to the guest tonight, he is so right on point. I just want to ask him this question. You know, I would like to know: are you going to also, Mr. Elliott? Are you going to post that on the Black network that we have here, our BTR community, the websites that he mentioned?
Oh,
are you going to post?
I'll make sure all the information that Dr. Kambon is speaking about is posted. Yes.
Wonderful. So I can, because I mean, it's a little staticky, and I'm trying to write it down. But great, if you post that, I can go there to the community because I'm a part of that community.
Okay.
I really he said something, and I just want to get clarification. Sir, you said that you're not on any Facebook because they're white owned. I do understand that, and that the Facebook that you have, which is black owned, you said had about like 6,000 participants. I can join it myself by going to one of the, I guess, the websites you talked about tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a forum, and then it also has an app So if you're on Android, if you're on iPhone, you can just type in the name Abibitumi Kasa, ABIBITUMIKASA. And when you do that, you can download the app, register for it, and then you can start interacting with people there. So yeah, it's off of Facebook, off of Twitter. I have videos still on YouTube, but I decided also along the same lines that I don't socialize with anybody on a non-African social media network. So the only people who I interact with on those videos are those who are part of Bibi to Mikasa. So, again, like I said, there are different levels of divestment, and what I would like to see people to divest from. All these Eurasian social media don't interact with anybody on. As a matter of fact, I saw an article about somebody who got put in jail, brother, a rapper or something out of Atlanta got put in jail from accepting a friend request on Facebook. The person was a criminal, blah, blah, blah. I was like, we don't even need to be on those places in the first place. And it's just like, you'll have people nowadays talk about the Negro League. They'll be like, yeah, look at what integration did. It destroyed the Negro League. It destroyed, the black hotels that were connected to those, the black bus services that were connected to those. It was such a shame. But then by the same token, you got people who are doing the same thing virtually, digitally, saying the white man's ice is colder and being on those things. So we're giving people a call to action. What to do is to be on our BB to Mikasa, interact on all of these topics in an African environment.
Jersey Girl, I want to thank you for your call, and I'll make sure that that information is posted.
Thank you.
All right. We got our guest, and he's calling, international call, so it might be a little scratchy, but we're going to fight through it. Let's go to, we got a special guest here calling from a location. It's a Miss Kambon on the line.
Yes, I'm a big fan of your guest.
Yeah, I know you are.
I recognize that voice.
Yes, this is my little brother. He was a gift to me. We actually have the same birthday, 2 years apart, June 16th. He was born 2 years after me on my birthday, and I'm just really enjoying the show. I'm so proud of him. And even though he's my younger brother, I'm so inspired. And I was literally talking to people earlier today. They had the information session for the Sankofa. And in listening to that, I'm excited to be able to go back to Ghana for the first time in years on the Sankofa journey in 2017. And, just looking at repatriating and all these kinds of things, having land there, having a home there. And I did have a question. I wanted you to talk about what life is like, because even though people need to go to Ghana and experience it, the stereotypes that people have in their mind are so far from the reality of living in both the rural areas and the urban areas. And, your life in particular, and some of the conveniences and even some of the domestic services and things that are there, people just really don't realize. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. There's so much here. For people who would still like to be in a very American lifestyle, they could live in Ghana just like they're in America. There's KFC here, there's Pizza Hut here, blah, blah, blah. So you can do all those things. There are huge shopping malls here. You can do all of those things. Now, on the other side, for those who are interested in re-Africanizing and de-whitenizing, and the two sides of the same coin.
So, Dr. Kambon, you're breaking up just slightly. Are you on a? You're not on a speaker?
No, I actually have a earpiece in. I'm hearing echoes too.
Okay, I can hear you a little bit better now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it finally stopped echoing.
Okay, I just moved the earpiece closer to my mouth.
Good.
All right, so I was saying that there's also, you could live exactly like how you're living in the U.S. here in Ghana if that's your goal. I wouldn't say that should be your goal. Part of what the U.S. does is that they kick in the door to economic markets and force them to privatize and force them to let their companies in. So I'm mentioning Pizza Hut is here, KFC is, all these things are here, Raleigh, so forth and so on are here. But for those who are interested in doing something else, you can also re-Africanize their African-owned, vegan health shops, for example. You could build your house using concrete blocks, which is what people tend to do. Or there are also people who know, sustainable building. I mentioned the brother, he has a website, Migrating Culture. He actually is a fan in Florida, and now he's, doing earth bag buildings, working with the indigenous soil to build and things of that nature. So, there are other options here as well. Just on a day-to-day basis, I drive to the university. We teach at a botanical garden, and, it has all types, for there. At Lake, that's actually where myself and my wife got married. So,
yes,
you can have all types of experiences. You can go to the beach, it's right here on the coast. So, it's a very normal life, or what I would call a normal life. But one of the added benefits is that everywhere you turn, everybody's black, and that's something you can't pay for. A brother who I went to undergrad with together, I actually convinced him to repatriate without even knowing that I convinced him. He just saw how I was living here. Like, all right, I'm quitting my job. He was at St. Stanley, one of these big white firms. He quit his job. He repatriated. And one of his reflections, he was like, the way I live here in Ghana is what it must feel like a white man in the U.S. And he was saying that in the sense of he can be in the store and nobody follows behind him because he's black. The police don't pull him over because he's black, and so forth and so on, or because they're white, I should say. And part of it is because everybody's black. You understand? So you're actually just living, and it makes you, when you think about it, it makes you realize how you really were not living previously, because you're always, when you're driving, you're thinking about, oh, where's the police, at? Or they're driving behind you, your heart is jumping, and blah, blah, blah. Just today, I had a police car behind me, and I think about it, that that I don't have to worry about my life is in danger if I get pulled over, because the police car just go to the side and pass me. They're going faster than me. So these are some of the things. And I had this epiphany. I was sitting in the park with my son sleeping in my lap, and it just dawned on me that I don't have to worry about getting shot, by some white or even black police officer. And that is something that is invaluable. You can't pay enough money for that. He has a toy gun. And for those of you who know the story of Tamir Rice, I was just sitting here like, I don't have to worry about getting shot because he's playing with his toy gun. So, part of, like, we'll say, these white folks do what they do because they can. They have the power to do so. So just being in a different space removes their power to do that, in the immediate sense.
Yeah, I get, again, I apologize for listening on. Sometimes we have to fight through it if we got a guest calling internationally. So you have to excuse it. But it's no problem. We're gonna fight through it. We got about 10 minutes.
I'm trying to echo on that side, too. I'm not sure if somebody is on the line who's on speaker, but it wasn't there previously. I think maybe, I'm not sure, one of the callers. If somebody can maybe mute their mic, I'm not sure what's going on.
No, it's just that, like, sometime in your conversation we'll hear like every third word because you're kind of going in and out. But we'll fight through it. Brother Richard, you heard a lot of the things being discussed. You heard some of the callers, their concerns and some of the things that they mentioned. In the last 10 minutes, I know you want to kind of throw some things into the mix there, and I know you kind of enjoyed a lot of the things that you heard. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I really, I appreciate Brother Dr. Kambon for what he's doing and continuing, this repatriation process. I got those. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the website now. Abibi Makasa.
Abibi to Mikasa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and checking that out, and definitely seeing earlier Sankofa Journey as a part of that. And I'm glad to hear that you were saying that. So that there are other Africans that are from North America that are coming to Africa with skills, and it makes me think about Professor Diop's grand strategy of unification of Africa, and being able to bring men and women like yourselves there to help in that development. One thing I did want to ask you, though, as you were speaking, the question came to my mind. The indigenous African cultural practice, are you saying that that's like non and void in Ghana? Or is it just the cities and the state itself is not, is still manifesting the colonial process?
Right. So it's still here, specifically in rural areas. When you get to the cities, these tend to be the bastions of Christianity and Islam. But, there are traditional festivals, there are traditional spiritual practices that, you can participate in. You can go to, them. You can go to a diviner. You can go to a healer. You can go to an akom, which is, the spiritual ceremony, Kwazide, which is another spiritual ceremony. So you can participate in all of these types of things. And again, it's much stronger in the non-urban settings. That when you come to a place like Accra, there's actually a church right across the street from me. But, every 10 feet you can see a church just about. So, these are some of the things that you're dealing with here. And it's part of the neo-colonialism.
Right. And if it's okay, the question I had was, I was thinking of the state of Benin, where African traditional religion is, and I'm wondering, is that in Benin, if you're aware of whether the like in the cities, the same Christian Muslim dominance is there, even though Benin has taken on I believe it's Buddha as the state religion.
Right. I would think that is different. I haven't actually been to Benin, or of course I don't live in Benin, so I can't speak to it. But I would think that it would be different there, because again, that's been made the official religion. I can speak definitely to Ghana. I can speak to Nigeria. Other places I've been in: Senegal, Gambia, Burkina Faso, Mali, Ethiopia, South Africa. That in all places you see, a very neo-colonial type of situation. In Benin, I would hope it would be different. I'm not sure the degree to which it is. I've seen, pictures of traditional markets where they have, various spiritual implements and things like that for sale. Actually, I am looking to get over to Benin so I can see it with my eyes. But generally, as you travel through the continent, even the people who practice so-called traditional spiritual systems, you would ask yourself how traditional it is, because for libation, and you're using a European gin or European whiskey, or you're taking a offering, asking for a white cloth, made by some Eurasians or whatever. So even to the degree when you're doing something that's supposed to be traditional, you have to ask yourself how traditional is this traditional thing that you're doing.
Well, I'm glad again to be able to have this time to, hear and witness your effort in getting us having a process for that divestment or repatriation, and putting that in place, putting that in play in this period. So I'm glad to be able to have this moment to exchange with you.
Dr. Kambon, in the final few minutes, a couple of questions. Do you notice a generation or a younger generation coming forward that has the mindset to break this neo-colonial stranglehold on the continent? I'm just talking about the continent, some of the younger people there. Do you notice a different mindset or a mindset of people just want things to stay as they are and they love this type of Western influence in Africa? Or do you notice a different mindset among some of the young people? Because, you know, I read certain African media and I see the things going on in South Africa with the students. And I just wonder whether this type of mindset is going on all over the continent.
For the most part, where we find, you know, Africans who are here interested in African liberation, they will tend to be my own students at the university. And it's because, you know, you have to create that. You can't just, you know, come and expect that to already be in place.
Okay.
Because, you know, you're dealing with people who've been through, you know, 18, 19, 20 years of diseducation and miseducation and anti-education. So what you see is, you know, the natural reaction to an impoverished knowledge base, you know, a lack of, you know, intellectual stimulus in terms of anything true. So, you know, when they get up to a certain age, then it just becomes, you know, a matter, of course, for them to think anti-African thoughts. So my whole purpose in being here is to create a different type of scenario. Because, you know, when I came here, it's really, I would say by and large, and we can talk, you know, over 90% of the population of the young people here, it's a very sad situation. You know, even stuff that everybody knows from Black History Month here, there's no idea about it. You know, whether it's continental Africans and the rest of the African world. You know, you mentioned, and I actually gave a talk this. It should be ready very soon on Decolonizing Academy, where I went through the names of about 12, you know, different great Africans, the audience, and these are all kinds of Africans. They had never heard of a single one. But then side by side, you know, I mentioned Ptah Hotep. This is the author of the oldest book in the history of the world. They never heard of him. But then I asked them Shakespeare. Yes, they all heard of him. Lincoln's from Haiti. They never heard of him. But who he defeated, they heard of him. So, you know, this is the situation that we're in. And if we want Africa to be in existence, the Africa is Africa that we create. Recently, we had this movement, Gandhi must fall. So the Indian government put this Gandhi statue here on campus. For those who aren't aware, Gandhi was a rabid anti-African racist. So, you know, we started a movement just to sensitize people on this. And it was very positive. You know, the youth were like, yeah, this should go. We didn't know about this. As soon as they know better, they're willing to do better.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, our colleagues, our neo-colonized colleagues were like, no, let it stand because Gandhi was great and blah, blah, blah. I saw a movie that said he was. So it must be true. So, you know, we had a counter from some of our House Girl colleagues here. And this is what we're dealing with. So, you know, we don't shy away from it. This is the situation that we're in. We have Hutus, we had our Blaise Compaoré, we had our Kotokas airport is looking for here in Ghana, our sellouts, whatever we want to call them. But you know, this is intellectual warfare.
Well, you know, I do notice that a lot of the dissatisfaction with the way things are coming from college campuses on the continent, and the same thing here. So I guess the old saying, knowledge is power, kind of, whether it's here or on the continent, it goes without saying. Before you go, Dr. Kambon, what other countries, because they don't let black folks know what's going on the continent. It's always some type of propaganda. And people that's supposed to let black folks know, which is their black representatives in government, they don't let them know. But you tell us, what countries over there have a open door policy or a repatriation type of policy to blacks that want to come back to the continent, besides Ghana, that you know of?
Well, right. So Ghana doesn't have a repatriation policy per se, but out of the countries that I've been to, Senegal has a system where you can go in without a visa. So that's one. The other countries I've been to, South Africa also has more of an open door policy, where if you have a U.S. passport, you can do that. Now, another level of divestment is also enunciation of U.S. citizenship and getting rid of that passport. So for those who plan on holding on to the passport, these are the two that had that type of system. Other places that I've been to where I can speak from experience, Ethiopia, you need a visa for that. Nigeria, Burkina, Mali, Gambia, so you can get into Senegal without a visa, but you can get a visa for Gambia there at the border. So those are the countries that and then I went to Egypt as well, and of course you need a visa for that one. There are other countries, I know Equatorial Guinea, I read an article saying that one has an open door policy. Also, I read an article from a brother who repatriated to Zimbabwe. And he was also, I'm not sure what the logistics of that was, whether or not you needed a visa, but he was talking about his experiences repatriating and, making it seem like it was something that was, somewhat of an easier process. So those are the ones I can speak to from experience. Otherwise, you can research.
Okay. Listen, I want to thank you, Dr. Kambon, for being with us. Again, before you leave, give out those sites again where people can join up and participate in the Sankofa journey. Also, BB2 Mikasa, and also you can also forward with me both that information. Now I can make sure that it's posted. I think you did send it to me on it, but you just forward it to me the way you forwarded some of that other information earlier. But give out any information that you want to before you leave us this evening.
Okay, so my sister called in. Let's start off with letsbuyblack365.com. So people should support that and actually, just actually start doing what it's saying, Buy Black 365. When I was in the U.S., I would go to Life's Essentials. This is in Atlanta. I would go to the Black-owned Citgo station. Here it's much easier because, you have to go out of your way not to buy Black-owned, get a Lebanese or whatever.
Okay.
So let's look at that. Let's buy Black 365. bb2mikasa.com. I'll spell that ABIBITUMIKASA.com. When you go to the site, click on the forums, and that's what we've been speaking about, where you can interact with other African people. Go to the site, click forums. Also, you can type that into either the Play Store or the App Store and download the app directly.
And can you post information and pictures and things of that nature?
Yes, you can. You can post videos, pictures, everything.
Good.
So, it's a full-blown, site for African media, the anti-social Eurasian media that we, support. And when we support them, we can't say that we don't like black people getting shot because we're giving our money to the Europeans. They have a decision of what they're going to use that money for, building prisons, bombing Africa, and so forth and so on. So.
Okay, and the Sankofa journey.
Right, and sankofajourney.com. Let me definitely not leave that out. SANKOFA, then journey, sankofajourney.com. And definitely we want to get Africans coming to the continent and making it real. It's one thing to hear somebody tell you about, Africa this, Africa that. But for you to actually be on the ground, sometimes for the first time in over 300, 400 years, that anyone in your bloodline has been back here in your motherland, the place you came from. So, it's definitely a very powerful thing. It's a spiritual experience. So we want people to experience that one as well.
Dr. Kambon, I want to thank you for being with us. I know we kept you up late. It's very late. It's early in the morning over there in Ghana. But thanks for being with us.
No problem. And when you said time for an awakening, I actually took a nap, and I definitely had to wake up. So now it's time for a sleepening.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Peace. We'll be right back.
You too. All right, take care.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
All Insurance Incorporated, an African-American owned and operated insurance agency in business for over 20 years, located at 231 Southeastern Road in Glenside, PA, with other offices in Germantown and West Philadelphia. Call now for commercial insurance quotes, homeowners insurance quotes, automobile insurance quotes, notary and tax services, representing over 15 major A-rated insurance companies, offering a discount on all notary services when you call in for a free quote. Call this number, 215-885-2444. That number is 215-885-2444. 215-885-2444. All Insurance Incorporated.
Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Peace. This is Professor Griff from Public Enemy. People keep saying black people need to do this and black people need to do that. Well, frankly speaking, I think it's a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of philosophy, and a whole lot of head nodding. But where is the action? I'm suggesting everyone that's within the sound of my voice, we need to get on board with this national black economic empowerment movement. Let's Buy Black 365.com. That's Let's Buy Black 365.com. This is Professor Griff from Public Enemy, and I'm out. Peace.
History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells of people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go, what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more back thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up, all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what
what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, girl, just you and me. Pick up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and catch all the hair. They don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our mind. Surely things will work out. They do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, girl, just you and me. Yeah.
Welcome back to Time for an Awakening. I want to thank our guest this evening, Professor of Linguistics and Research Fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana. Dr. Obadeli Kambon was with us in conversation this evening. And again, note that information of the website of BB2 Mikasa, the social media site, SankofaJourney.com. It will be up. I'll make sure it's posted. You can access that information on Time for Awakening fan page, timefораwakening.com. I'll make sure it's posted. And also I'll put a post on BTR Network. Also, letsbuyblack365.com. Go to that website. Make sure you join. Make sure you be a part of a movement. And one thing that we've always pushed on Time for Awakening, 1 million conscious contributors and voters. 1 million conscious black contributors and voters. Go to the website. Get in where you fit in. Read the planks. Get involved. Get involved in our liberation struggle in some form going into this new calendar year, this 2017. Get involved. Don't stand on the sideline anymore. Don't point fingers at other people because the finger that you're pointing at other people is 3 pointing back at you. Get involved in the struggle somehow. It's some practical solution that we can all implement in our lives. Some of the things I mentioned tonight can be a part of them. Next week, I'll let you know that something will be strange about Time for Awakening in the 8-year run and the 2-year run that we've had on social media. We won't have a live show next week. I have some unfinished business out of town that I have to take care of, and I won't be hosting the program next week. So it'll be a live stream with interesting dialogue and one of the past programs that you might not have heard or you might have heard. It'll be an encore session of Time for Awakening next week. It won't be a live program, but we'll be back on the 25th to continue on this path towards an awakening. I want to thank everybody for listening to us tonight. Lively discussion, as always. We'll be back in 2 weeks, Lord willing, to continue on this path towards an awakening. Peace.
If you're driving through the country on a lazy afternoon, or you're watching your children playing after school,
the things that they'll soon have to take care of. We've got to